Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good night, whatever time it is when you are getting a chance to check out today's pre-show tarot reading for That Witch podcast. People, it's episode 5, and I just can't believe we're already a full 4 weeks done and into this show. It's really crazy and also really, really cool. So, hi, how are you doing today? Have you checked in with yourself yet today? Have you asked yourself how you're feeling today? I definitely noticed I was letting my feelings doing the walking today instead of me checking in with them. So, big reminder for today, since the moon is in Sagittarius and it's going to stay there until very, very late tonight when it finally moves into Capricorn. But we are going to be in Sagittarius all day, very, very fiery, but really creative and very exploratory energy, okay? Sagittarius is really ultimately a truth seeker at the end of the day. They seek nothing but truth. And so really checking in with your emotions today on a Sag moon day is actually a really good day for it. Use that fiery confidence of the fire element to really face whatever it is that might be, dragging you down today, or what's lifting you today. Is something lifting you today? What is it? Have you remembered to say thank you for that? Have you given yourself at least a couple of minutes today to stop whatever it is that you're doing and go, this is really amazing that I get to do this right now, and I'm really, really grateful. Don't forget, reminders of moon in Sagittarius. Well, on to today's tarot reading, shall we? As always, I have my beautiful Deviant Moon Tarot deck by Patrick Valenza. And as always, I will link the purchase link in the description below. Man, one day I'll get all these little YouTube, sayings down. Subscribe and like. I'm supposed to say that on every video, and I don't think I've said it once. You should really take the time right now to go hit subscribe on my channel, and then you ring that little bell, and that notifies you every time I upload a video every week, so you never have to miss these amazing tarot readings with me. If you remember from last week, or if you were visiting with me last week, then you know I'm actually not offering professional tarot readings anymore. So this is kind of your chance to get yo tarot on with me, all right? So let's see what the deck has in store today. I want you to plant your butt or your feet wherever you're at, really even and distribute your weight as much as you can so you feel nice and stable and grounded. The cards are still waiting, so they're still deciding. While we're waiting, take a deep breath, slowly exhale. Really think about what it is that you'd like insight on, any questions that you might have. And now open yourself up to receiving those messages. Because we've got a couple of interesting ones today. We get 2 today. So, first and foremost, we have the 8 of Pentacles. And secondly, there we go, we have 4 of Pentacles. Okay? Here's the 4. Don't you just love the imagery on these cards? Gosh. Every single time I look at these, I'm just like, oh, I'm so happy you found me. I'm obsessed. Let's dig into some Pentacles action first and foremost. So Pentacles are going to be our symbol of the earth element. So this is a very, very physical, very presence. Okay? Does that make sense? This is things of substance. Real, practical, physical, tangible things. And people and environment and places, okay? Anything of that nature is going to correspond with the earth element. And because of that, because it's anything physical, right? All of our assets and our finances, all of our possessions are also going to fall into the earth element. Another way that's I've always loved looking at this is, remember that, and this is how gods like Hades, gods of the underworld, also were considered gods of prosperity, because our most precious items, if you will, come from the earth. So precious metals and precious stones. So really anything physical in nature, okay? Really tap into that earth element, into that pentacles energy. When it comes to the 4 and when it comes to the 8, number one, I found that really, really interesting. Then we got the 4 and the 8. 4 is half of 8. 2 4s is 8. This is a very, very connective, cohesive reading. I don't want you to necessarily think that one of these firmly comes before the other, because I can feel the energy of this reading. They're much more connected than that. It's much more of a cycle, if you will. We're not really sure which comes first and which comes after, but this is representative of a cycle. And here it is. 8 of Pentacles really represents this very hard, diligent work and effort, okay? And that when we put this consistent effort and work forward, we receive reward for that, okay? And so it's shown here on this really beautiful assembly line. So the individual is working really hard, but the individual gets to keep all of that. That's their reward. That's their harvest, if you will. And I really, really like how at the very top of the card, one of the gears in the little assembly machinery there is a giant sun, obviously, to the point where this looks really similar to the sun card in this deck. I really like that the 8 of Pentacles actually looks really, really similar to the Sun card, because honestly, in a lot of ways, the 8 of Pentacles and the Sun card are really similar. The Sun represents this abundance and this warmth and this prosperity, and because of that, there's this success. And that's really what the number 8 represents. There is a lot of success and accomplishment and achievement in the number 8, okay? And so this is what really connects the Sun and the 8 of Pentacles for me. There's this very successful, bright, shining, accomplishing energy coming from it, okay? When we get to the 4 of Pentacles, however, this is a card that reminds us a lot of things. There is a lot of duality to keep in mind with this card. So see, the individual here, the one holding all of the pentacles, all of the coins, all of the possessions, if you will, probably worked for all of the materials that they're holding. Quite honestly, in this reading, I see this individual, the one holding everything, as the same individual who did all the work in the 8 of Pentacles. And so there really is this very rightfully so energy of this is mine. Okay, there's this feeling of this is mine. I worked for this and I own this. I possess this now. It's very Taurus, quite honestly. Taurus teaches us how to possess, and therefore one of Taurus's biggest burdens is therefore not to become materialistic and stingy. And that's what I really like about the 4 of Pentacles, specifically in this Deviant Moon Tarot deck, because in the Rider-Waite deck, there's just one individual, and it represents all the same things, and the same energy really does come across of this balance of comfortably and confidently holding your own, especially that which you've worked so hard for, and also remembering not to slip into stinginess, not to slip into selfishness, and not to slip into greediness, okay, or materialism. And so the reason I really like it, the difference in this deck, and the reason I really like this particular card here, is because we actually have a second figure. We have a second individual. And this person is very, very thin. Look at all of their bones protruding out of their chest, right? So this is indicating someone that is very malnourished and therefore in need. And there's somebody here with more than enough to go around, and they're keeping it for themselves. Or maybe they're deciding. That's kind of the cool part about tarot, is it really depends on where you're at in your life, and that kind of ticks or nudges the energy one way or another. And that's why you really have to check in with yourself when you hear all of this interpretation and all of this reading, is what lands with you the most. Are you being a little hoarding right now? Are you being a little stingy where you do have enough to give, and you're honestly usually coming from a place of fear? Most people that end up in materialism and possessiveness and greediness are actually coming from a place of fear because they know what it's like to have nothing. Maybe they grew up with nothing, or maybe once they had everything and it was taken from them. And so they know what that lack feels like. And this causes this defensive mechanism to really hoard and hold and not give. When in reality, this individual, like I said, has plenty. They won't lose everything by giving a little bit. Now, on the other side, literally, okay, is your energy kind of ticking or nudging you towards the other end of the spectrum here? Are you giving too much? Is it time to be a little bit smarter, especially with your finances, by the way? This is a really big indicator of that. Four of Pentacles is a big check-in with your sustainable, smart, long-term purchases. Well, what your short-term purchases and habits will mean for your long-term. Okay, it's a really good and important check-in for that. And coming up with this Eight of Pentacles is another reminder, hey, you're working your butt off for all of this. Are you being smart with everything that you're gaining? Are you making smart purchases? Remember that we really want to restructure and reframe our mindset around money. We don't want to say things like money is inherently evil or I hate money, because that is going to keep that resource from us, right? And we want to manifest money into our life. We want to ethically manifest money into our life, because we can be that person who has more than enough and can completely and wholly take care of ourselves and give back to our loved ones and our community, okay? Even though the Four of Pentacles is kind of that uncomfortable conversation, it really, that's the purpose of this card. That's the purpose of this energy, is to really remind us, hey, there is an ethical way that we can genuinely work for and earn our materials, our possession, and our possessions and our money. And then we need to be smart with it. Okay? Just in general, we need to be smart with it. You might have a little bit more room to give than it feels. So take a look over everything and really analyze that and be honest with yourself. Or you might be giving a lot right now, too much, to a point where it's not smart, because what it's going to do is it's going to run you into a really unsustainable place so that you can no longer take care of yourself, and therefore you can no longer take care of anybody else either, right? So we got to make sure that we start here. We start here and we take care of all of us. That's okay. We don't have to feel selfish about that. We take care of us and our own, and then we know that we can pay it forward and we can give it back, because there's always enough to go around, and we don't have to be stingy. Our fears of losing everything, our experience with lack, our experiences with poverty, they don't have to define us. And they certainly do not automatically determine our financial futures and success. We are free to constantly restructure and reframe our mindset around money and our success and finances, so that we all get long-term, sustainable abundance and prosperity. That's what we're all about here. quite honestly. Okay? This is a good one today. I really, really like this. This is going to go really nicely leading into today's episode, which I'm really excited about. I want to talk about really getting started. Like my advice, how you really get started for that number one question I get asked from everybody. How do I even get started in astrology and witchcraft? How do I even get started in using witchcraft and astrology in my life, for my business, for my growth, for my success? Where do I even begin? That's what we're talking about today. So make sure that you stick around and let's go welcome everybody to the show. Must be the season of that witch. Yeah, we're getting cheesier and cornier by the week, and that's just too damn bad. Welcome! Hello! It's so nice to have you here. Welcome to another episode, 5 to be exact. 5 whole episodes already. Welcome to the 5th episode of That Witch Podcast. I'm your host, your instructor, guide, and mentor in all things witchcraft, astrology, and magic, that witch next door, Danny. I'm really excited today. Can you tell? Can you feel that super uplifted, playful, creative energy? That's that moon in Sagittarius. Tap into it. I'm feeling it. I'm tapping into it. I'm leaning into it. I hope that you do too. Sagittarius is really, really creative. We were just talking about this on the pre-show tarot reading, which I know you're not going to miss. Make sure you get over to my YouTube channel right now. Unless you're watching me, then hi. We were just talking about this though, this Sag energy, which is just so playful, so creative, so fiery and warm and truth seeking. And so that's like one of my favorite parts about Sag energy is no matter what, when we get into the fire element, we're going to have this big boost in creativity. But Sag, really let Sag guide you because it has a special kind of very fiery creative intuition. And it will lead you to do those bold things that on the surface, you know, we might think, really, that kind of seems like a crazy idea. I don't know if people will go for it. Sag knows. Sag is truth-led. Give it a try. This is really good, very experimental, very exploratory energy with successful results. Okay, so I'm feeling it. We're leaning into it, and I am really excited to get into today's episode. The last couple episodes, sorry, that's New Moon Danny for you. We had to get super, super deep. We had to dig down into the shadow, into the depths. We had to crawl out of that and be very honest and real with ourselves. If you were with me last week, you know about that. And then really climbing out of that shadow, out of that cave. It's not a bad, scary cave, but a cave nonetheless. And what to do with that, how to really reintegrate back into life, right? And so now for today, I sat down and I feel this energy of like, okay, like we crawled out. We are successfully maintaining our mental health. We are doing self-care and we're doing the real life thing and we're taking care of our responsibilities and we're caring for any dependents that we have and making sure that we're caring for ourselves first so that we're filling from a nice full overflowing cup. So we're standing at the edge of this hole that we just climbed out of the cave. We're at the very entrance of the cave and we're about to head out. Where do we go, right? And so with this really exploratory Sag energy, I wanted to just start at the very, very beginning. The big question that I probably get the most on my Instagram, when I worked at the shop, like, and in my experience being a witch in the last 7 years, number one, first question I always get asked is, I don't even know where to start. Like, where do I begin? I'm interested in all of this. I'm really excited about astrology, but it seems overwhelming. I'm really intrigued by witchcraft. It feels like it fits with me. It really, really resonates with me, but I have no idea what the fuck I'm doing. Where do I go? Most of us, if you're like me, I didn't come from a background of this. I wasn't raised on all this. I don't have a, family or old childhood friends or whatever that was like, hey, this is how you be a witch. It was totally this intuitive journey where I was always, on the witchcraft journey. Excuse me. It's just that one day It's like I actually opened my eyes and looked around and was like, oh, we're on a witchcraft journey. Yes, that makes sense now that I'm, opening my eyes and shit. But, oh, okay. And I count that moment of like awareness as my official start, my purposeful, intentional start into witchcraft. And so I think that a lot of you are there, and I want to speak to you. If you already dabble in some witchcraft, if you full-blown practice, if you already dabble in astrology, or if you full-blown study, if you are a full-blown professional witch and astrologer, this episode is still for you, and I'm going to tell you why. I really, really, really love going back to the beginning and going back to the basics. I think that this is an important lesson for Sagittarius, actually, because it is so, and remember, moon's there, that's why I'm bringing up Sag. Because it is so forward thinking and exploratory, Sag also benefits from doing a little reversal and a little review. Because things are always changing and things are always evolving. That's why it's important. And honestly, if you've been following me for a while, I've mentioned this quite a few times about myself. Every so often, at least a few times a year, I go all the way back to the basics in all of my favorite areas of study, or my favorite practices in magic. And that's because it's honestly like rereading your favorite book. Or rewatching your favorite movie, or rewatching your favorite TV show. There's always those little Easter eggs that you missed. There's always those little things that you missed. And you are always happy that you went back and redid the journey so that you got to experience it through this experienced mindset, right, and perspective. And B, because it was super fun discovering all of these new things that you didn't realize you would have been able to rediscover had you not gone back in the first place. So, first and foremost, how the fuck do you become a witch? Well, here's what I want to remind you. Before we even get started in that, you already are. If you are sitting there and you're really serious about, how do I become a witch? How do I practice witchcraft? Take it from all of the seasoned and experienced witches that are also listening to this right now, nodding their heads going, you already are. Trust me. You'll realize it pretty soon, but you already are. You always were. Okay, so number one, before we even get started, if that's where you're being guided, and hello, truth-seeking Sagittarius, know that your intuition is guiding you to what's already true, okay? So don't ask yourself, how do you become a witch? Ask yourself, how do you now start nurturing and embracing and embodying this inner witch and bringing her into the external? That's a really good place to start. When I think about, baby witches and anybody really interested in beginning a manifestation practice or spiritual manifestation lifestyle, I personally believe that the most important thing that you can do at the start of that journey before you try and do anything else is ask yourself, why? Why do you want to? What is calling you? What has been sticking out to you or resonating with you that interests you or drives you toward this way of life? I want you to ask yourself why. And the reason is because this lifestyle and this practice is dope. It is awesome. It really is. For a number of ways I'll never be able to count. It's infinite. It is also not for the faint of heart. It is also not for the unaware and the willfully ignorant. This way of life will heighten your awareness and your mindfulness to the point where you can't do the willful ignorance thing anymore. There it is. There's the analogy. There's today's magical analogy. I am Morpheus of the Matrix asking you right now, oh, where's my hand? There you go, YouTube. Blue pill or the red pill? You want to take the blue pill and keep on the mindless, self-unaware, willful ignorance journey. Turn back now. Here's the blue pill. If you're here listening to this and seeking this out because you know deep down you're fucking ready, you know deep down this is your path. Maybe you don't know why. Maybe you can't explain it fully. Maybe it's more of a feeling. When you ask yourself that question, answer that way. Say, I don't know what it is that's driving me, but there's something deep in me calling me, or there's something deep in me pushing me. There is no right answer to that question, by the way. I simply want to challenge you to ask it and challenge you even harder to honestly answer it, because I think that it'll put you in the right mindset to really step forth on this journey. And for those of you that are listening that have been practicing witchcraft and magic or studying astrology and using astrology already, whether it's been for a few months, for a couple years, or for many, many years, and if you've never asked yourself that question, or if it's been a while, I want you to ask yourself that question. I want you to ask yourself that question. I ask myself that question. I'll ask right along with you here. I, too, felt guided and called by, quote unquote, an invisible force, if you will. I found familiarity. That's what happened. That's why I wanted to practice. Because when I started barely studying, just barely started scratching the surface of the basics, the very fundamentals of witchcraft, spellcraft, manifestation, okay? I found so much that I was already familiar with. And honestly, that just spiked my curiosity even more. I started reading about these different fundamentals, especially around pagan witchcraft. I'm a pagan witch, which means that I recognize and follow and worship more than one god and goddess, okay? Across actually a few different cultures and mythologies. I primarily am a Hellenistic witch, which is a Greek witch, if you will. I follow Greek mythology primarily. It's just the mythology that at this phase in my life resonates the most with me. They're the deities and energy that I resonate the most with. So I'm considered more specifically a Hellenistic witch. But more broadly, this is pagan witchcraft. And when I started studying and learning about the different belief system and laws of nature and energy and the rituals around that, the education of transmutation of that energy, all of these big, broad, very first initial concepts that you encounter when you first get into witchcraft, it was like I already knew them. It's in many ways there were rituals I would read, little spells and like little recipes and things like that, and I was like, I already do this. I've been doing it since I was really young, or I've been doing this since I was 20 years old or whatever. And so that familiarity, that just spiked my curiosity. And so for me, my big answer, or big, honest, long-winded answer to that question is, it was already a part of me. And it was time, and I was ready to completely expand on it and embrace it. That's my answer to that question. And I think that, again, no matter how long you've been practicing or if you never have at all, I want you to ask yourself that question. Oh, YouTube. Say hi to little Toots Girl. Hi, baby dog. Next, step 2 in really embracing and letting your inner witch now shine is journaling. Yeah, I'm doing it. I'm going there. You know, if you know me at all, you probably would be shocked if some kind of journaling advice wasn't on this list. Or if I don't mention it in an episode, I'm probably ill and you should send help. Journaling is, it's so important. I know that it is honestly become kind of a buzz term, but it is for a reason. It is because of its effectiveness. Now, I have told this to so many clients, so many friends. If you don't like pen and paper, if you don't like sitting there and writing stuff down, that's okay. That practice, like pen to paper, does not have to be the one and only defining quality of journaling. For a lot of people, myself included, it is a very sacred part of our journaling practice. A lot of people, the pen to paper thing, it just really, really resonates for us. But if it doesn't, it's okay. There are many ways that you can document your journey. The whole point of journaling is to document and check in with yourself. Okay, it really helps pull us out of our head, that inner dialogue, and really pull it out in front of us into our conscious so that, we can have a much more effective conversation and dialogue with ourselves, okay? That's honestly the broad main reason why journaling is so important. And the reason this is essential and crucial to any witchcraft practice is because witchcraft and manifestation and spell work is a practice of mindfulness. So that's why you'll see on my page, in my episodes, in all of my content and my services that I offer, you'll see so much education and support for mindfulness practice or for shadow work practice, because it is an integral part of successful manifestation and involvement, okay? Successful manifestation and growth and involvement, those are kind of are two, if not two of the main goals and reasons a lot of us practice witchcraft. Or all of us. I'd be pretty willing to bet that's most people. Now, if you don't like the pen to paper thing, there's a couple other things you can do. You can record like voice notes either on a video and do like a video diary or a video journal, or you can do voice notes and voice recordings. You can also start bringing your conversations from within your head and within your heart to the external and start speaking out loud for yourself. And I just want to say, first of all, I do a combination of all these things. I write, I record video, I record voice notes. Primarily it's voice notes and pen to paper. I also have always talked out loud to myself since I was a little girl. It's never going away. I'm always going to be that way. But now that I'm older and now that I do so much mindfulness practice, I see the benefit in it as well. And I personally would love to help remove the stigma around it, that means something is wrong with you, that it's indicative of some kind of sickness. I can't stand that stereotype and that stigma around talking to yourself. First of all, that to me is self-awareness. You're acknowledging other versions of yourself within yourself, in addition to your main conscious self. And so to me, number one right off the bat, it's self-awareness. I also think that it is just a very effective way to process our thoughts and feelings. And like I do. When you talk out loud with yourself, and establish a dialogue like that, you are demonstrating very clearly to yourself, in all of your subconscious even, that you care about yourself and that you acknowledge yourself and you validate yourself. So talking out loud, I tell people to do it all the time, and I think that a lot of people are like, I know, I do it and stuff, but I mean, try not to do it so mindlessly, because that was me my whole entire life. I just talked out loud to myself in a very mindless way. I never really gave any actual thought to what I was saying. And now that I know the importance of intention when it comes to manifestation and mindfulness practice, now I am so much more thoughtful and mindful of the conversation that I have with myself. And this is how I've been able to successfully go through such a transformative period in my life, where I can honestly sit here and look right at you and say, I practice self-care. For maybe the first time in my life, or at least the first time in an extremely long time in my life, I love myself and accept myself. I really do. I hope you're watching the video right now so you can just see my unwavering eye contact here. I can sit here and tell you that I advocate for myself, I place and hold boundaries, I am very self-aware of, the areas of myself that I am working on still, that are being tested and kind of tweaked and restructured. I can say I am the most accountable and authentic version of myself I've been since I was a young child, which is arguably when we're our most pure form of ourself, right? So, journaling is a crucial step and part of all of this practice. There needs to be some kind of self-check-in. It is very helpful if it's documented. I mentioned that word earlier. It's helpful if you document it. I don't always document my conversations out loud with myself. Good Lord, that would be a lot. But having the pen to paper or the voice note recording or videos or whatever, having the actual documentation that you can save so that you can go back and reflect, big, it's a game changer. That's one of the biggest reasons why journaling is so effective. So I just want you to take all of that into consideration when you think about either starting or maintaining a journaling practice, okay? It doesn't always have to be go buy a pretty notebook and tell yourself you're going to write in it every single morning. Like, I don't journal every single day. I don't sit down with my notebook every single day. I would love to. I'm definitely working toward it. I think a lot of people think that because of how often I advocate journaling, they think I'm like perfect at it. And I'm not. I'm a human being too. I'm a mom too, for crying out loud. I'm a busy human being too. I don't do it every single day. But I can tell you I do it the most consistently and regularly than I ever have in my entire life. I definitely do it the most frequently I ever have. And I'm at that point now where I can actually look back on the last few years of my journaling practice physically, because I have a notebook I can flip through. That's why it's so beneficial to document it. And I can physically read and see my progress. I can physically read and see patterns. It's seriously so helpful, okay? So don't let it bog you down and hold you back and intimidate you. Find a way or a combination of all of these ways that works for you, and just start aiming toward more and more mindfulness. My biggest tip for all of this, for becoming a witch, an astrologer, and applying it to your life, and journaling, all this stuff, my biggest tip is every day you should have the goal to be more mindful than the day before. That was kind of the wrong hand gesture if you're watching YouTube. But you get it. Try to be more mindful than you were the day before, every day. Oh, right there, amazing place to start. Next. So you've asked yourself a really hard question. a really big question, maybe not a hard question, but a big question. Why do you want to do this? And you've answered it very honestly. You know you're in the right place. You understand that mindfulness and intention is a massive, massive part and piece of all of this. And you are accepting of that and consenting to that. Now, where do we go? Now, what's the next step on the journey? Well, now we get to kind of get into the actual fun stuff, into the meat and potatoes, if you will, if I don't roll away from the mic. Sorry. What kind of student are you? This is what I want you to ask yourself. I want you to sit with yourself on this awesome Sag moon day, because Sag is such a star student. Sagittarius rules traditionally the 9th house in the zodiac, and the 9th house is our home of higher learning, like philosophy, religion, spirituality, right? And like really elevating our education and our learning, because we are being guided by truth seeking. We want to constantly be learning, because the more we learn, the more we are seeking and finding and discovering truth, okay? So in all of this energy, I want you to ask yourself, what kind of student are you? And make no mistake, if you are a witch or an astrologer, you are a student forever. That is part of your title forever, including me. I am an instructor and a mentor and a guide for magic and astrology and magic, just like I say on every episode. I will always also be a student. Personally, that's probably one of my favorite parts about all of this. I have naturally just so many curious, like such a, naturally curious energy about myself, that when I'm interested in something, I just want to learn about it. And so knowing that this lifestyle and practice has unending information for me to discover and learn about, that's what I love the most about it. But you do need to know this. There's going to be a lot of learning and studying and researching. There's going to be a lot of trial and error, okay? That is part of this lifestyle. That's part of the reason, like I said, it's not for the wishy-washy or whatever. You could do it. You could practice witchcraft in a witchy. You should practice witchcraft in a witchy way. No, practice witchcraft however resonates with you. You don't have to feel stereotypically witchy, but that was a very good Freudian slip. You could practice witchcraft in this really wishy-washy, really flaky way, but because this is how manifestation and law of attraction and all that works, what you put into it is what you will get out. So if you put in a bunch of half-assed fucking like, and I don't mean half-assed in like, you don't have to be a perfect witch. You don't have to practice every single day. You don't have to do a spell every day. You don't have to make all the moons. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about half-assed in this, I don't know, the having to be accountable of myself part, like the shadow work part, that shit sucks. I don't like thinking about the hard parts of myself and the hard parts of my life. So I don't know. I don't really practice that part, but I love doing like money spells for myself. Or, I really love doing like love spells and self-care and stuff like that. You're missing a crucial part, and so your results and what you get back will also be missing crucial parts. That's what I mean, okay? So you are a student. You need to ask yourself, what kind of student am I? Because I'm going to be learning and studying. Number one, are you more of like a self-taught kind of person, or are you kind of a lone wolf when it comes to all this? Do you really like doing research and study for yourself and only yourself? You might not even like to talk about it with other people. It's a very, very private practice and area of education for yourself. By the way, once again, there are no right or wrong answers to any of this. This is just to help you discover what kind of student you are. I really want to help also end another terrible toxic stigma in our society, that there are quote unquote good and bad students. I used to always say I was a bad student because I did bad in school purposefully. I really didn't like school, almost any of it, the entire time I was in kindergarten to end of high school, into college. But that was never the case. I was never a bad student. I had a lot of education that was not tailored to my learning styles. And that's something that that's a whole other can of worms that maybe we'll open one day when we talk about how we need to really start broadening and breaking through, these cookie cutters that we really force all of our students and kids into, right, at a young age. But I digress. Or do I? Just kidding. But really, I want to start helping you, and myself included, removing this judgment about a good and a bad student. It's not like that. There are just many different learning styles. You might have like one. You might have one really main solid learning style, and that's your go-to. You might be a multi-passionate or a multi-style and honestly learn in all different ways. And people that are multi-passionate or multi-learning style like this, there's kind of a couple of ways that this shows up. You either learn well no matter who the teacher is, kind of, because maybe you read people really well, or your brain is able to pick things up in a multitude of different ways. Or you might get easily overwhelmed, and it's important for you to go through and have whoever's teaching you or guiding you really go through, even if you yourself is the guide or the teacher, each little individual learning style for one subject. That's okay. Will that way take a little bit longer to study a subject? Sure it will, but time is an arbitrary thing, and this is not a race. I really, really want that to come across too. This is not a race. None of us get a gold medal for who learned what part or branch of witchcraft or magic or astrology first, or who learned it, quote, better, right? Let's start removing all these things. That's what we should do. Let's remove all of the parts about learning and education that we hate. Because guess what? It doesn't serve us. If there is something in education and learning that just triggers you, that you hate, a certain learning style or whatever it is, remove it. That, my friends, is the best fucking part about studying and practicing witchcraft. You get to define the learning path, okay? You get to really define how information is absorbed. You get to filter, if you will, your experience, okay? If there is a part that you don't like doing, don't do that part. This should be fun. There's always going to be that deep, cathartic inner work. That's part of it. Like I said, it's not going away. And on top of that, you also get to have a blast at the same time. You also, because you're so mindful and aware of the world, I know that I tell people, sorry, you can't be willfully ignorant anymore. That sounds like a little, I don't know, scary, intimidating, harsh maybe, I don't know. But also know that because you're going to be so mindful and present and aware, you're going to enjoy life so much more. You're going to also increase your gratitude so much more. Because you're so much more mindful of everything, you're going to genuinely treasure and cherish the things that really, truly matter to you, the things that really fill your cup or light you up the most. You get to now experience those parts to their full potential because you're going to be so mindful and open and aware to all of them. That's the big picture of all of this, okay? It's awesome. Wow, we really digressed from the self-taught, self-disciplined learning style, didn't we? Well, that's okay. All this is important. Do you like learning by yourself? Is this a very, very private educational journey for you? Do you like learning in a group setting? Are you really socially, motivated? Are you really socially motivated? Interaction motivated? Do you feel you're learning your best and strongest when you get to talk with other people or hear or observe other people also learning, right? Are you more of like a one-to-one person? Do you really like to have like this private teacher or tutor or mentor, just you two, someone that can devote and dedicate all of their energy to teaching you in your own customized way? Is that more? Are you a combination of all of these things? Honestly, I'm a combination of all of these things. I think a lot of people are going to be a combination of all of these things. And the most important part in asking yourself what kind of student you are is being able to check in with yourself and really be able to gauge and read, what kind of student am I feeling like today? Or when it comes to this subject, how do I best actually like absorb and learn and retain this information? Because there are going to be some subjects and branches of witchcraft that maybe come to you easier, or you make the connections faster and more effectively. Yeah, that was right. And more effectively when you're just on your own and you're learning it yourself? Or do you really like that interactive, almost accountable nature that a group setting or a one-to-one like mentorship or tutor could bring? Okay. And being able to gauge and read these things will help your educational journey in witchcraft just be so much more smooth and enjoyable. Because again, I want it to feel fun. The crazy lady who's like, do your shadow work, but have fun. No, but seriously, I mean it. Like, there is a lot of deep catharsis that comes with mindfulness practice, and there is such deep inner joy and peace that comes from it as well. So, if at any time your educational journey feels downright wrong, like this does not fit, I'm not learning, this is just stressing me out, this is making me not want to be a witch, this is making me feel like I'm not a witch, this is making me feel invalidated, this, any of those, this is making me feel, and then fill in the blank, that is valid. And because that's valid, you have every right to look at whatever that situation is, you know, that learning style, that path, whatever it is that you're on, and go, you know what, this is not for me. I don't want to do this. And that's okay. Or, and this is a big one, everybody around me says that this is really bad and really dark or really dangerous. And yeah, I'm using the sassy tone with that on purpose, because most of us practitioners either do experience this or have experienced this, where everybody around you is like, this stuff is really dark, it's demonic, you're going to be allowing this, that, and the other into your life if you even open the door, whatever. No, you're not. No, you're not. Guess what? No, you're not. I'm here to tell you that if you want to say that out loud to those people, or you want to just say it in your head and maintain your boundary that way, no, it doesn't work that way. And welcome to That Witch podcast, because I'll be teaching you all about how to safely open doors, how to properly close doors, how to protect your energy, how to genuinely strengthen and trust your own intuition. Okay? This is a beautiful, beautiful path. And nobody around you has to understand that in order for you to practice it and live it to its absolute fullest. All right? I am here to tell you that you are already that fucking witch. Okay? You don't need permission from anybody. Look at this Sag energy. Just, those are all the flames, by the way. Do you like those are all the flames of confidence, right? And power going into you, all right? Now, I want to kind of end things on a very general explanation of what witchcraft and manifestation kind of is, and what astrology overall is. These are going to be very broad explanations for a reason. That's because both witchcraft and astrology are massive umbrellas. Neither one is exclusive to the other, okay? You can practice and study astrology and not identify as or practice witchcraft, and vice versa. Okay, you can be, I think a lot of witches and practitioners, especially baby witches, think they like have to become this professional or like full-blown expert astrologer in order A, to be considered a quote legit witch, and B, to like practice effective magic. And that's not true. I do strongly and firmly believe, not just believe, I know the really profound tool that astrology is and can be in the right hands. It is still just a tool at the end of the day. And if a tool doesn't resonate with the user, you don't gotta pick it up, and that is totally fine. Or if you do want to pick it up, you don't have to go full-fledged into being the expert craftsmanship of that subject or that area, right? Okay, there is so much very, very basic information and principles and fundamentals in astrology that if you just got those down, I'm telling you, you could utilize that astrological tool, that cosmic tool that we are given for amazing things, okay? So, knowing that you don't have to have one or the other and that you're still welcome here in the witchy neighborhood, let's talk about it. What the fuck is witchcraft? What does that mean? Well, witchcraft, my friends, is a practice. It is a lifestyle. It is not a religion. I want to repeat that. Witchcraft is not a religion. You can layer a witchcraft practice with another belief system, including a religion. I am not here to get into the debate today about if it's possible or valid to be a Christian or Catholic witch based on past persecution of witches from Catholics and Christians, okay? I'm not here to debate that. So maybe another episode we'll talk about it or something. But what I am here to tell you is that witchcraft is just a practice. It's just a way of life that can be layered onto any life. It is a seriously customized practice. Now, I do want to make mention, whenever I'm talking about witchcraft in a big, broad umbrella term like that, I am talking about open practices. Got it? I am talking about any and all witchcraft practices, rituals, spells, etc., any branches of that are open and available for all. There are many, many closed practices and closed religions in our world. I really encourage you to educate yourself on those. I would, honestly, to get started, I would type in a Google search, what's a closed practice? I would start educating yourself on cultural appropriation, specifically through the lens of witchcraft and spirituality. I really would. I would do some really good actual history homework for yourself. And that way you are going into and practicing witchcraft from a very ethical and informed place. Because yay, that's way more fun. Told you we're still going to be cheesy. Now, so we are not practicing and stealing and appropriating and exploiting any closed practices or any practices of marginalized groups, okay? We are embracing the very open practices and rituals, and they are abundant. Let me tell you, there is so much you can and will do in your witchcraft practice. You might be like me, and you might consider yourself a pagan, which is somebody, like I said at the beginning, that recognizes and works with or honors or worships multiple deities, multiple gods or goddesses. They might all be from one specific culture. They might be from multiple. Again, I hope this is going to just keep going without saying, being mindful that we're not worshiping and working with deities of a closed practice or culture that we are not a part of and we are not welcome in. And that's okay. I think that a really big healthy dose of reality that a lot of us need, and a lot of us have gotten in this industry, in this community, is you don't have to be welcome everywhere. You're not entitled to that. There is more than enough to go around. There's more than enough magic and energy and ritual and tools and spell work and deities and mythologies. Seriously, there's more than enough to go around, so that these closed practices and cultures don't owe you anything. Okay, that's your big dose of real magic for real life today. So you might layer your practice with some kind of religious or spiritual belief system, okay? But there are a lot of witches that also identify as agnostic or even atheist, okay? Now, again, I'm not going to get into the whole existential conversation or debate around that or anything, but just keep this in mind, that if you have, seen a lot of witches worshiping multiple deities, and that is just something that just does not resonate with you, and that's like the one or one of the main things holding you back, you don't have to do that. It's totally fine. I am a Hellenistic witch, like I mentioned, but I am also an elemental witch. I'm a cosmic witch. I directly apply and base my magic and witchcraft and spell work on astrology and the elements. I am very, very connected to the wheel of the year, as in like the seasons. The more I practice witchcraft in all of my years, the less I resonate with like the neo-pagan terms around some of the Sabbats, if you will, which are the pagan holidays. I have started to more resonate with the celestial event. So, for example, the holiday, the pagan, neo-pagan, Wiccan holiday, Ostara, is springtime. Okay, it's associated with springtime deities, springtime energy, rebirth, life, okay, things of this nature. I much more resonate and specifically practice and use the terms spring equinox. Okay, so that's more where my practice has morphed. And that brings me to a really good point, is the reason I wanted to end this episode with being really broad is you kind of got to get started in all this, you kind of have to start broad, but also to show you that I want you to have a main understanding of the really big things, because I want you to know that you will very likely move through each of them in different ways, in different amounts, at different times of your life and your practice, okay? And so you might identify as, a witch, and then a few years goes by and that term just does not resonate with you anymore, and a different term does. That's not only okay, that's your journey, that's part of your journey. The main point of all of this is really following that intuition, right? Strengthening and building trust with your intuition. So if your intuition's saying, this isn't us anymore, this isn't me anymore, let it go. It served you. That means it served you, and now you thank it and you release it on to other things. So if you want to get started in witchcraft, again, understanding all those big things that we went over at the beginning of the episode, I think that once you've gotten to this point, you've asked yourself that big question, you understand that there is some type of journaling, some type of inner dialogue that needs to be maintained. There's going to be mindfulness and shadow work practice as an integral part of all of this. And you have an understanding of what kind of student you are, so that you can effectively do your own study and research. Then, when it's time to actually do the research, the fun stuff, I'm going to leave you, all the witchy side of these things, I'm going to leave you with these big questions. What areas are you the most interested in? I think a lot of people are looking for this step by step, like, I want to be a witch. Do I get an altar first, or should I have tools and like crystals first? Should I even practice spells if I don't have an altar? If I don't have a patron god or goddess, can I still have an altar and put offerings on it? Whoa, whoa, whoa. You'll find all of those things as you go along. Don't worry. First, start with, where do you want to go? Don't worry about supposed to. Try not to worry so much about like the order of things, okay? You've already, since we talked about it, you've already done your research and education on the ethics part of this, right? You're not dabbling in closed practices. You're not exploiting anybody. You're not appropriating from anybody. Once you know you're practicing from an ethical place, then ask yourself, what do I want to learn about, and follow that. Here's a big list of different areas of subject to get you started. Do any of these really jump out at you? And yes, of course, it's okay if you're a multi-passionate and all of them equally jump out to you. But tarot, right? Specifically cartomancy, which is divination through interpreting card phases. This can be done with tarot decks and oracle decks, even regular playing card decks, okay? Are you interested in divination, psychic work, okay? Divination is really any kind of work where we open up our psyche and we connect with the universe and we channel or receive information or messages. Sometimes that information, I think a lot of people think that psychic work and divination automatically means like future messages. Sometimes it is. A lot of times it's also information about your past. Your intuition or your spirit guides will also channel and download information into you about your past and realizations like that, or information and realization or helpful info about your current right now, and sometimes there will be future messages. So are you really interested in like psychic work? Do you feel like you have, and if you feel like you have abilities, you do. I just want you to know that right now. Do you feel like there are things in you that, you know, you've always like wanted to explore, that you felt like really you were accurate about this in your life, that it happened this way, or you've always been, you know, kind of in tune with, these are the words or the vague statements that have been said to me so many times over the years by anybody, you know, aspiring toward this lifestyle or anybody just getting started. Well, I feel like I have these abilities. You do. They're waking you up now. They're really heightening now. You're becoming more and more aware of them. Is that kind of happening to you? Are you being pulled in a divination area? Are you really interested in plants? Plant energy, right? Green magic, green witchcraft. Do you love just surrounding yourself in plants? You have a completely different relationship with plants than anybody else you know. There's just something about them. There's just something about that connection you have with them. You are being very called to green witchcraft. Start there. Are you really interested in herbs, you know, really similar to green witch, right? Are you really interested in herbs and the power of herbs? But more when it comes to herbs like we think of in a cooking or a culinary sense. Are you feeling that inner kitchen witch being called out to you? Is cooking and creating within your home and within the heart of your home, which is what your kitchen is that really the thing that lights your fire? Is that when you feel the most in tune with your intuition and connected to, you know, universe or spirit or your higher power, if you will? Are you really feeling more pulled towards that? Are you really pulled towards the astrology thing, to the cosmos, to the celestials? Are you fascinated by mythologies? Is there just something about ancient Egypt that you just can't get away from? You don't know what it is. Go, run towards it. Other main big areas and kind of good basic places to start Are you really interested in like candle magic? Do you see people doing these spells and rituals on TikTok or on Instagram or Pinterest, and you see these really beautiful, intricate candles, and there's just something about that. It's that light. You're like the moth to the flame, and you're just like, oh, I need to know more about this. Start studying the fire element. Start studying candle magic, okay? So I really, honestly, I could just keep going on and on and on. And we got to talk a little bit before we go about what is astrology and how do we get started in that, because that can be a challenge too. So for all of my little witchy neighbors here, all my little witchy students here, I want you to take the first half of this episode, the second half with all these, very broad witchcraft concepts and questions, and I want you to start your journey there. I want you to make note right now and along your journey any obstacles that you come across, any questions that you have, and send them my way. Now, again, the whole first part of the episode, we asked the hard question, we talked about journaling, we talked about what kind of student you are. What is astrology? Now that we know what kind of student you are, we've answered all these questions, we're at the next part. What the fuck is astrology? And not just what is astrology, but why are people so into it? When I hear people say it's so beneficial, why? I want to know why. How is it so beneficial? When Danny keeps saying that it's a tool, what the fuck is she talking about? Well, astrology, my friends, is, I think, best understood as a language. It is very intricate to learn. It can be as simple or as complex as you need it to be, or, for whatever presence or use you have for it in your life. How much of that language do you need to effectively understand? Okay, but that is, I think, the best analogy. One of the best analogies for astrology is that it is a language. It was like this code that was gifted to us from spirit, from the universe. The planets don't control us. Let's definitely start there. The planets do not control us. The planets are mirrors. And that, my friends, is the fucking gift from the universe. That's the language right there. The fact that the universe said, I'm going to throw you a big fucking bone here, okay? Okay, beings, okay, souls, okay, starseeds, I'm going to throw you a big fucking bone by giving you this giant celestial cosmic mirror that's reflected at you at all times. Mirrors are fucking powerful tools. I mentioned this in a couple of episodes when we talked about glamour magic and stuff, and I said, mirrors have been used for a long time. Mirrors have old, ancient magic in them because they are one of the most powerful and effective tools. And the universe gave us a huge one by giving us this big celestial mirror so that we can track the planets and their interaction to better understand our own, so that we can live our lives so much more effectively, so that we don't have to feel like we're just fucking winging it every day. That's why I love it. I don't have to feel like I'm just guessing. It is really easy. I don't know if you guys can hear the construction outside, and if you can't, sorry for bringing it up, but Lord, it's distracting. Okay. I am somebody that thrives on information, on being prepared for things. And I would make the strong argument that this overall, for the very most part, benefits pretty much everybody. We're really learning this in a new modern parenting education, actually, is that just empowering through information. It's really, really fascinating learning about that as a parent to a child, because honestly, that is really how I foresee tracking history and these patterns via the cosmos, via astrology. It's like reflecting on ancestral and generational trauma or cycles or patterns, right? It's really helpful. We know why history is so important. It's very similar with astrology. It's just a completely different, fresh way to look at it. And this is why I don't really, when I talk about astrology, you'll notice I don't use words like it's super accurate or whatever. Of course it is. It's a language. We wouldn't say that about any other language. English is the best because it is the most accurate language. What the fuck does that even mean? Language is language, okay? So don't worry. It's not about that. Astrology is not a pony show, okay? It's not some... I'm sorry, man, my throat today. It's not this, trick for us to be proven something by. It's not the universe performing for us so that we can go, wow, magic exists. It has nothing to do with that. Astrology is a fucking study. It is a language. It can and is used so independently of witchcraft all the time. It is very, very similar in that you can also layer the knowledge and study of astrology with anything. You could layer it with any lifestyle or belief system. And I've seen it in the astrological community. There are people from all kinds of backgrounds, people that believe in all kinds of different things spiritually. Because it's just a language, it's just a tool. And again, if that tool really resonates with you, then pick it the fuck up and let's run with it. Hell yeah. And again, you don't have to, you can get as in-depth and complex with astrology as you want or as feels right with you. For a lot of people, they study to an amount, and that's kind of where they like to leave the really, active or aggressive portion of their education. And from there, it's more, okay, now that I have this really good base foundation, I know how to much more effectively and properly interpret all of the different readings that I see online or all the different astrological forecasts. I know how to understand that enough now and how it's going to affect me or how it's going to affect the community and energy around me. And therefore, again, I'm now living a more informed life. That's really the point of astrology to me, is it helps you just live a more informed life. It offers you nothing but tools. My relationships with other people, from friends to family to clients to strangers and to myself, are seriously infinitely more quality and effective because of my understanding of astrology now. I understand and know how to read and understand and therefore meet the needs of others and the needs of myself. It's helped me remember that all things pass. Good times and hard times. Or I should say easy times and hard times, or times of challenge. It all passes. That's the beautiful part about astrology. Is it's so cyclical based, right? Because of this rotation, because of these circles that we're tracking, quite honestly, and these angles that these different rotating circles make. You start to really embrace the liberating concept that everything will eventually pass. I don't have to white knuckle grip on to everything for fear of losing it. And I don't have to kick and punch and scream and avoid something away because I'm afraid of it. No matter what, I know it's going to pass. And so that's why I use that word liberating. It really is, to me, studying astrology was the most liberating thing I ever did. It took my witchcraft practice to an entirely different level. And I get asked that question a lot, and I should bring it up more. I forget to. But I practiced witchcraft for a long time before I studied astrology. I understood very, very, very basics about my sun sign. And then outside of that, I knew that a moon sign existed. I knew that there was other planets and things like that. But I was it's so overwhelming. I don't even know if I have time to study it or whatever, and I waited. And that's how it should be for anybody. Again, if it just feels too overwhelming and the only reason you are debating studying astrology is because a lot of other people do, or you quote unquote should, remember, we're getting rid of that shit. We're getting rid of the supposed tos and all of this. It's not about that. You should only study it if you feel called to it and you genuinely want to. And then start studying it and allow yourself to achieve or reach whatever level of understanding of astrology that feels right for you and fits for your lifestyle and your practice. All right. I think that these are really good places to start. And I know that we had to get very broad today, but truly that is the best place to start in this portion of the journey. Okay, and I really, this Sag energy, this fire, I feel like this cleansing fire energy, just like really starting fresh and starting at the beginning. And again, even if you have already been practicing for a long time, I want you to think about these big concepts and what kind of thoughts they bring up for you and what kind of feelings they bring up for you. Have you been putting off studying astrology? Is it something that has really been calling to you, but you've just been intimidated? Because being intimidated and your intuition telling you something just straight up doesn't fit with you are two very, very different things. Learn to recognize the difference between those things, because you don't have to be intimidated. Just come on this little journey with me. Join me in the witchy neighborhood here, and I will help teach you astrology in ways that are way more fun and not overwhelming at all. Bite-sized pieces that just make sense. All right, it doesn't have to be scary. Witchcraft and astrology, you got this. Okay, it's awesome. It's really awesome. I think that you know that. I think that that's why you're here, and I am here to tell that little voice that's like, oh, we're feeling really intimidated though, that it's all good, baby. It doesn't matter. We all get intimidated. It's, in my opinion, kind of a good emotion to have. It means that a lot of learning and knowledge and enlightenment is coming your way. All right. This was a good one. I really was feeling it today. As you can tell, if you're watching YouTube, we're dancing around. We're very expressive here on YouTube. So don't forget to subscribe, of course, and turn on the bell for notifications so that you never miss an episode or a video. If you missed today's tarot reading because you're listening to the just the audio podcast, make sure that you get over to YouTube and look at it. It is a really good reading today. And yeah, I'm going to leave y'all on some of these big, open, broad concepts and questions so you can get started. And I'll be here waiting until next week to answer any questions that you might need, okay? And until then, I'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.